All right, welcome to our September 7th Practice Power Academy webcast. Hey, it's been a couple of weeks, so I want to say I hope you all missed me during my 2-week strategic window. Here we are in the month of September, and before we know it, we'll be talking about holidays and business planning and what to do for the rest of the year. So what I want to do very quickly is, because we always have new people joining us as our Academy membership grows, or people want to come and experience things like that, is I just want to go over kind of what we do real quick here. I've got some announcements, some topics, I got some questions, and then our goal is to get you out of here in about 30 to 45 minutes. First off, the reason why we do these webcasts for all Academy members, it's just my way of value add. I've believed in value add for almost 25 years of my career, where I think a lot of my colleagues / competitors like to charge a lot of money and do things like this. This industry has been really, really great to me, and I always love to give back. So 3 Wednesdays a month at noon. As long as you're a member, it doesn't matter whether you're just a member or lead access. You have an opportunity to hang out with me on a Wednesday for a half hour and let me add some value to your business, to your life, and hopefully let you make some more money. Okay? You'll get invitations, opportunity for Q&A, and you can also ask questions during this webcast in the question box if you're on the GoToWebinar page or using the app. So take advantage of that. The other thing I wanted to say is we are recording this for future replay. We have several prior webcasts on my team now. Now we figured out how we want to do it. We'll be putting them up there. So if you happen to miss something, want to get just kind of re-listen to something, you'll have an opportunity to do that inside of PracticePower.net. So a couple of housekeeping things real quick. For those of you who have been on these webcasts for a while, you know that I did mention that after Labor Day, I would be announcing the dates of our business planning webcast. And so here they are, December 19th, December 20th, and December 21st. This will take the place of my annual business planning event I used to do in Orlando. We are now going to take this as virtual, so you don't have to travel, you can stay home with your families, and still have a very solid business planning process. Really quick, how we're going to do it is, and I'm going to finalize the windows. So here's what I'll say to you. It will not be all day on the 19th, all day on the 20th, and all day on the 21st. My current thinking on this is to pick a 3 to 4 hour window each day where you can kind of log in like we're doing here, right? And I'll actually walk you through the business planning process as if you were with me in the same room. So as we get closer to those dates, we'll be that will require a separate registration, which will start that process probably in October. But I want to give you the dates, and I'll give you exact times in the next month or so what the windows actually are, and then give you an opportunity to register for that business planning event. You could either work online through Practice Power Academy, or download the PDF, which we'll make available, and kind of work through it. And it'll be a very similar process this way. I'll walk you through each question as if we were live. You can ask questions. I have a little screen here with questions for that. And it's a nice way of just getting your business plan done, having that commitment, but not feeling like you got to go jump on an airplane and spend 2 or 3 days with me in Orlando and things like that. So that's our business planning event webcast in mid-December, right before the holidays. Second thing, which is brand new, this is what happens when I go away for a period of time. Starting in January, we are going to launch a mastermind study group, a Practice Power Academy mastermind study group. This will be either a series of live meetings, which will come to Orlando, spend a couple days with me, or it will be done virtually on a monthly type group web meeting, if you will. This group will be limited to 12 people, so a maximum of 12, and we will start taking applications. I will be putting information out to everybody in October on this, but I just want to let you know that this will be coming down the pipe. I've made the commitment, I've cleared my calendar, and we'll be putting that out there. So just watch for that in October. October, the details. And like I said, we are recording this for future replay, so any of your questions and your comments that you make will be a part of the record. All right. Let's talk topics. So I've got really 3 things for all of you this week. Obviously, it's September, so let's talk about game plan, what we need to do there. I do a little bit about holiday events. You know, what a lot of advisors do is they wait till like November to start figuring out what they're going to do for the clients for the holidays, and you end up scrambling. So I want to give you some ideas, some strategies, some best practices of what some of my clients do to kind of get the wheels turning in motion, so that if you want to do something, you have time to really do, where you're not jammed up. And then I want to spend some more time talking about client optimization. Really making sure that we're doing the best job possible for our clients in terms of serving them well, and then in our case, driving as much revenue as possible from that. So let's kind of pivot up to the September game plan. Now, I know short week, here we are, a holiday week on Monday, obviously. It's very important because, look, there's September, October, November. I don't look at December as a typical month because of the holidays. I want to make sure that all of you have a very well thought out, tight, written monthly game plan for September. So whether you use the template on PracticePower Academy, the basic one, you go get the Excel file that we have in the Practice Management Center, or you've got your piece of paper, right, that you write things down on, that's fine too. Make sure that you have it in writing. Secondly, if you've listened to me at all in the month of August, what did I ask you to do in the month of August? Make as many contacts as possible to clients and prospects, understanding they probably won't want to do anything until after Labor Day. But now we are here, so now it's time to make sure that we're following up on these people and really doing a good job on this. I would highly recommend that if you have a pipeline list or a prospect list, people that you've kind of, maybe you've talked to, maybe you've met with, so on and so forth, but you could not get them over the hump, so to speak, let's go ahead and really make sure we re-engage those people, take their temperature again, see where they're at, and if they're ready to move forward in any way, shape, or form. Very important you do. It's also very important that September, October, November, you think about, am I doing any, in addition to my holiday, am I doing any client events? You've heard me speak about this also. I'm a big fan of at least a quarterly client educational event. I've got clients to do them on a monthly basis. You want to really make sure you've got your fall calendar scheduled in. So whatever it is you're going to do, make sure it's in the calendar, ready to go. If you work with any business partners, that's a fancy word for wholesalers for some of us, right? You don't wait till November to ask them for budget. If you want to do a client event, a holiday event, and you want your partners to help contribute, they still may have a little budget left. Get to them now. Don't wait till the end to see what they've got, because you may be disappointed. Incredibly important to do that. And just really make sure that we're, now that summer's over, for some of you, I can see who's online here, the kids are back in school, right? Let's get back to the basics. Our morning ritual, daily game plan, strong levels of execution, what I call just work the business, right? This is not when I was out in Seattle for my mastermind group that I have with some of my clients. The interesting thing about 25 years almost doing this, the basics are still the basics. It's still a communication business. It's still getting in front of people, whether getting in front of people means via email, via phone call, being physically present with them. You need to engage people. This is still going to be, I don't care about robo-advisor or all this other jazz out there. Our marketplace is the human relationship. Never forget that, okay? That's the value that we create. So in September, let's just make sure that we're really focused on that, and we're just executing the things that we need to, okay? Second topic, holiday events. So there are basically, well, I'll consider to be 3 schools of thought on this, and I don't think one's better than the other, but I'll lay them out for you. Thought number 1, it's too busy, people are crazy, got too many things going on, so let's not do anything. Fine. I'm going to come back around to that in a little bit. Option number 2 is, let's figure something out. Where do we put it? What are some fun events? Option 3, let's not do, again, anything, but let's go into January and do something at the beginning of the year, which I do want to talk about. So as far as holiday events go, I've got clients. So from a wine tasting to dinner to I've got a client who hosted I love the idea, if you can, of what I call an office holiday open house. Pick a window of time. Typically Thursdays work well. 4 to 8 o'clock. I do have some clients that do them on a Saturday, depending on your business. And just like you would have a holiday reception, open up your office, have some food, some beverages, things like that. I know a couple of my clients will take that opportunity and actually bring in. Again, I'm not going to get into anything here religious or anything. Some people bring in Santa Claus and have Santa Claus in the conference room, all set up with the backgrounds and the chair, the whole 9 yards. That costs you a couple $100. And clients who have children or grandkids, there's your picture with Santa. No line, no mall, no nothing. Right? Done. Very cool thing to do. So if you're going to do something, figure it out. I'm not saying it's a must, but it can be a nice way of bringing clients together. I've got clients up in Michigan. They do a tree farm every year. They'll get that to happen. I've got clients that will rent out a movie theater and host a private viewing of whatever the dominant family holiday movie is, and those are great things to do also. Again, if you're going to do something, do it. If you're just going to do a card, I think that's okay. I will say, from my personal experience and talking to a number of my clients, that the Christmas or holiday card, it does get lost in the shuffle to a certain degree. I've seen over the last several years more of a movement to the Thanksgiving card, which obviously gets a little, there's a little less competition, right, on that respect. But here's what I think at minimum. If you don't want to do any of that heavy-duty stuff, at least look at your top 10 clients and invite them to break bread with you. Thank them for the year. Thank them for their loyalty. Because let's remember this. You don't have an ironclad 10-year agreement with them to be their advisor, to run their money, right? You don't. So this is still the goodwill business. Never forget that. What all of us need to be asking ourselves each and every day is how do we increase the goodwill that we have in our business? How do we increase the goodwill with our clients? That's ultimately what matters. Okay. Now, let me pivot back for a second and lay some groundwork in terms of events. Over the last several years, I started with 1 or 2 people about maybe 4 years ago now. Maybe it'll be 5 years in January. They put together and hosted a welcome to, I think back then, right, welcome to 2012. Welcome to the 2012 event, early January, built around 2 very connected themes, health and wealth, okay? So on the health side, they would go get a nutritionist or a doctor or a personal trainer or a chiropractor, or in some cases several different people, and they would come and speak about how to be healthier in 2012, right, or 2017 coming up. And what we would do, either personally ourselves, or maybe we would bring in a business partner to talk about macro, economic trends, or here's 10 strategies to do a better job with your investments and finances in 2012, right? And what's really nice about doing something like that early in the year, first off, you're not playing around in December with everybody in the holiday craze. You're going to get people that have made resolutions. And oh, by the way, what are the 2 most popular New Year's resolutions in the United States? Any ideas? That's right. Getting my money under control and getting the number in the scale to go down. 1A, 1B, health and wealth. So we can take advantage of that, but you got to start thinking about it now. So I'm putting it to you. I know it's September and I'm talking about January, but I need you to start thinking about it now. Is it's really cool to start the year off with a nice, really pretty large event for most of you, where you know, you have clients, you have guests, you have your prospects come, and it really kicks your year off from an opportunity, a production, a revenue standpoint, because you're taking advantage of our societal human nature. When people want to make change, they want to do it in January. That's why people join gyms, they put budgets together, all that jazz, and normally by February 15th, guess what? It's gone. So there's a window where you don't have to do a lot of influencing, you don't have to do a lot of selling, you don't have to do a lot of pushing. It's those 4 weeks in January, so I'm just laying the groundwork for that now. Okay, so keep that in mind. So again, holiday events, figure out what you want to do. If you're not going to do anything, fine. I highly recommend the January event, and at minimum, your top clients, do something for them to thank them, because your top clients are probably anywhere from 50 to 80% of your revenue run, right? We want to make sure we do a good job with those people. Third thing for today is optimization that I want to talk about, then we'll do your questions. So, you know, one of the things that came up in our Seattle meeting was, again, thinking about optimization. And definition real quick. Optimization is basically this. It's the concept of doing everything possible for our client base. So, financial planning, asset management, insurance, either directly or indirectly facilitating their tax scenario, estate planning, and whatever else that you think you want to put on your board. Some people put banking and mortgages, property and casualty. There's a lot of ways you can optimize a business, right? I find that for most advisors, I mean, I do have some that really kind of get this, but for most advisors, I think we play with this a little bit. So what are the basic check marks? So I said a lot of things here. So what are the, number one, all of your clients need to have a financial plan. Now, when I say financial plan, it doesn't have to be a 175-page bound thing that they'll never look at. Financial goals, what they want to accomplish. If you have work product like Money Guide Pro or eMoney, or, you know, all firms have their proprietary piece, at minimum you want to offer that. Now, can you force a client to do financial planning? No, you cannot force them, right? But at minimum, have a net worth statement. At minimum, have retirement income figured out for them. Have some sort of planning process and net worth process if you can't have them do an entire full financial plan. Okay, very important. Number two, don't assume you have all their money. Verify you either have all their money or you know where the rest of the money is. That's why the financial planning process is so good. Remember, your clients, their economics are constantly evolving, right? We're getting richer, we're getting poorer, there's liquidity events, retirement, inheritance, whatever, right? CDs come due, whatever happens. I've seen a lot of advisors in my time work under some really expensive assumptions that they know their clients well, or the clients would tell them what's going on, or I know I've got it all, and it's in a rare sense that that's accurate. So again, we want to make sure that we're doing a good job at looking for outside assets. Third element is, at minimum, doing insurance reviews, whether that means long-term care, life insurance, whatever. And if you're not, and if you sit there and say to yourself, yeah, Joe, that's nice, I'm not the insurance person, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not, well, then find a business partner that knows what they're doing and make that happen. Okay, very, very important. So plan, AUM, insurance. Next chunk, tax. You know, one of the things that we really, really spent time talking about in Seattle in my study group, in my mastermind, was even at the wirehouse level, finding a way to work closely with CPAs and tax professionals, whether that's a tight integration or loose affiliation, doesn't really matter. You want to look to position yourself as that quarterback, as that personal CFO. And one of the best ways to do that is to have influence on how tax is done. So, working with their CPA, trying to build a relationship there. It doesn't have to be an economic one, but bottom line is, every one of your clients, you should be able to pick up the phone, call their CPA, and have a meaningful conversation, and you're not being treated like a salesperson, right? At minimum, that needs to be the case. So again, a tighter integration into tax. I believe, and I see this already on my independent business. So I deal with my independent clients, my RAs, and so on. I see a huge trend where tax is being integrated almost into the financial planning process in terms of tax planning. So again, optimization there. And then I think the last piece of optimization I think all of us should play with or be very well versed in is making sure that the will and the estate plan is done, so on and so forth. You want to handle all that. So if you handle planning, AUM, insurance, tax, estate plan, 5 things, right? Because I like things on one hand. I think doing one-hand concepts, everybody can kind of get that. This has got to be where you need to be relevant and vibrant in our new world. After DOL, after Robo, after all the things that are going to come down the pike in the next several quarters, several years, this is what a well-versed financial advisor's business looks like. We understand and we deal with these 5 things: planning, AUM, insurance, tax, estate planning. We don't have to be the experts in them, but we have to make sure that we're the leader in all those. Okay? So just some things on client optimization I want to put out there to you. And again, if you have any questions on this, feel free to submit them or wait till next week and submit them. That's totally fine for me. We do have some members that did submit some questions, so I want to go ahead and get to those right now. And let me see. I'm going to go to my board here just in case Tina's here. I don't know if she is or not. I don't see her, so I'm just going to go with the question here. So Tina writes, I have a challenge executing my morning success ritual. Any tips you can provide me? I think all of us from time to time have a challenge with our morning ritual. We're human, right? I know, for example, when I take a couple of weeks of strategic time and I travel, I have actually 3 different morning rituals, and maybe this is kind of what we need to talk about today. I've got my full-blown morning ritual, which takes me about an hour, right? That's full business plan review, monthly game plan review, daily game plan review, usually on my elliptical for half hour, watching some videos, kind of get my mind right, or jumping on my bike, going outside, throwing a podcast in one ear, and taking a half-hour bike ride, coming back in, and then kind of getting ready for my day. In my perfect world, that's my 1 hour ready to roll, right? Option 2, if I'm not traveling, is that maybe the exercise piece doesn't happen, right? Because, I don't know, things happen, maybe I'm up a little late, maybe I just don't feel like it, whatever. I still execute the basics, but now I can truncate that down to 20, 30 minutes. So that's pretty neat. If I'm traveling, it really depends. Like, so for example, when I'm hosting an event, whether it's a training event or a mastermind, whatever, we get going pretty early in the morning. And those tend to make for pretty long days for me. So what I tend to do is have maybe a 15-minute ritual I can literally do sitting in a chair, actually even in bed if I have to, where I've got everything on an iPad, and I kind of go through it. So I think the key thing for everybody is to have different versions of your, again, don't think, well, and this is where I think a lot of advisors and human beings get themselves in trouble. They think in terms of optimal. Right? Well, optimally, here's what it looks like, and here's how much time I need. And then the day comes when maybe you didn't sleep well, or you slept in late, or X happened, whatever it is, right? And you sit there and say, well, I need an hour for my ritual. I only have 45 minutes. I'm running late. I just won't do it, right? And you totally abandon it. For those of you who've been around me for a while, you know what I say, right? Good, better, best. Best. If you can't do best, do the next one. If you can't do the next one, do the next one. But please do something, right? I don't care if it's 10 to 15 minutes and that's all you think you have time for, fine. But find a way to build this in so it happens for you on a regular basis, all right? So a couple different versions. Commit to the process. Don't worry about time. make sure you can say, I did my morning ritual, check, even if it's 10, 15 minutes. Please do that every day. Chris writes, in your opinion, how important is it to be offering financial planning to clients and prospects? Well, I kind of mentioned that earlier, but let me see if Chris is here. Probably going to have one of those days where everybody registers and they don't show figures, right? So, but yeah, so I don't see Chris. So here's what I'll say. I had a conversation with a client a couple weeks ago, and they asked me, hey, do I need to go get my CFP? And for those, again, who've been around me for a long, long time, I've never have been able to correlate getting a designation to increasing your income, your revenue. So here's the question, and I want you all to think about this yourselves for a second. Now, for those of you who are CFPs, great, congratulations. So don't read into this, I'm anti or pro anything, but I'm just going to walk a concept down. How many times in your career, for those who don't have a CFP, how many times could you say you lost an opportunity specifically because you did not have those credentials? Think about that for a second. Answer is, it happens, it's extremely rare. Do I think it's going to happen more in the future? You know, I just don't see it. I don't see it. Again, I'll wait for the evidence. I haven't seen it yet. Now, with that being put aside, do you need to be offering some sort of financial planning, some sort of process to your client, whether it's a Money Guy Pro or eMoney or Profile, there's a ton of different packages out there. I think everybody needs to offer something. How can you invest their money if you don't know what they want, right? What their goals are, what their time horizons are. And again, I'm not saying you have to do full-blown 175-page heavy-duty stuff, but I do think you need to have a process. I do think you need to find a way to incorporate that. Now, here's a couple things real quick, a couple distinctions for everybody. I've got, as you know, I deal with clients in a lot of different venues, from independents to, wirehouses and all things in between. And I've watched people go from doing no financial planning, zero, to basically getting their feet wet in it, working with some of their best, and we all have clients that would pretty much do anything we ask them to do. So you start there, right? Here's the interesting part of all that. The bottom line is, once you do that, once you start offering planning that way, what happens is, first off, you get discovery of all outside assets. So if anything's out there, you're going to find out about. Even if you just do a very basic 1 or 2 page net worth calculator, right? And you just ballpark some stuff, you're going to know more about your client's financials than you did before you did that process. So I do think you need to go ahead and become what I call planning centric first. So let me explain and then give you a story. Our industry was pretty much born and raised under what I call transaction. It was transactions first, right? Open the account, get the ticket. Now we've morphed to AUM. Get the assets, put it under fee, serve them well, recurring revenue, makes our world go round and round. We're now entering a third phase where we're going to be planning centric. Let's get a plan done first, then we'll bring the assets in, then we're going to go ahead and then turn the wheel from a fee standpoint. It's a quick story. I've got a team that's at a wirehouse. 4 years ago, they did no financial planning. And if they did financial planning, it was a giveaway. It was free. It said, here, right? We're just going to do it. I persuaded them over many months, quite frankly, to, hey, we need to charge for this. I don't care what you charge, pick a number, but it has to have value. If it doesn't have value, people are they're not going to buy into it. Now, when I say charge, we're going to talk about new people, not going back to your current book yet. New people, right? Their biggest fear, as you can imagine, would be what? I offered to do this, they have to pay me, they don't want to pay me, they go away, I won't get the assets, it's detrimental to my success. And that was a big fear, and I totally understand that. Here's kind of what's interesting. So they started off charging $500, which nobody's going to get wealthy or rich on a $500 planning fee. But here was an interesting part. The people that cut the check, 95% of them, and when I say 95%, I'll give you some actual numbers in a second. 95% of them brought the assets at the end of the financial planning process when the assets became available. So 95%. So in just simple math, it was 19 out of 20, because I have the data on this. So 20 paid plans, 19 rollovers. But what happened to that one person? They decide to do it themselves, right? So the reason why I had them charge initially was I wanted them to not do all this free work. So our industry, if you think about it, what do? We give away our intellectual capital under the quid pro quo of, if I do all these meetings for you and put this plan together, you're going to feel so compelled that you owe me that you're going to feel bad by not giving me your money. And that's the way we've kind of done it. We don't say it that way, but that's the way the psychology of it works, right? So if we charge for it, we eliminate that quid pro quo, right? Now it's a fee for service. It now doesn't feel like a selling process. So here's the interesting part. What I realized, and again, working with this one client scenario, is once a client or a prospect signs that one-page planning agreement and strokes a check to you, in their mind, they've hired you. Even if you don't have the assets, even if you don't have them firing their current advisor yet and bringing you the assets, mentally, they're now a client of yours. They voted. That was the real aha moment for me as a coach, was in their mind, it's not a big decision, because the big decision is what? Moving the money, right? Opening up the accounts. Well, we don't do that initially. We're going to work this little project, and for most of you, when you do financial planning, it's probably a 4 to 6 week project, right? They have a couple meetings, a couple phone calls, got to gather data, things like that. You get a chance to actually work with the client, add value to the client. They're experiencing you being their advisor. They're going to have a positive experience. They're not going to want to not do that. And that was really interesting to me. So my point, Chris, is I highly recommend, this is something I'm talking to all my clients about, becoming more planning centric, lead with planning, project, right? Instead of what? Well, we're going to do this thing for you, or follow up. Hey, let's see if we can get them engaged in a paid project. And it doesn't matter how much you charge. As the fact is they sign off on it, right? Mentally they hire you. That to me is really important, okay, from that perspective. So hopefully, Chris, that handles your question. Dave just threw a question on the board. Let me see what it is. Having a CEP, other organization has a number of, here it is. I'm reading it from that perspective. I think, yeah, it can add confidence. My concern with it, Dave, is basically this. I've seen guys that have CFA, CFP, JD, CMAs, all the above, and they have no business. They're one of the brightest poor people that I know, and I see that a lot. So I would say if you can take those designations and couple it with some good business strategies and good business sense, then yeah, you can really be dangerous out there. But I am not a believer in more. You can educate. If you're an average business person, an average advisor, and you're struggling economically, you cannot educate your way out of this. Education is not going to, getting another designation is not going to help the cause. It will just be another distraction and to stop you from really dealing with the core issue, which is what's going on between the ears emotionally and not so much from it intellectually. Again, this industry, I've said this over, then we're going to the next question, this industry overvalues intellectual capital, way overvalues it. Way too much. It really does not give enough credence, enough value, enough leverage to emotional capital. If you think about when you're doing really well, when you're really driving it the way you need to, when you're driving it that way, it's not because you got smarter for a month. It's that you're emotionally at a different place. You're moving things forward, and I think that's really important. Don just wrote a note in here. Does the pay-for-planning work as well in public workshops or better with referrals? It would be a tough sell to quote on. It's a great question. So, Don, I just got off the phone about maybe 2 hours ago with one of my clients in Houston, Texas. He does a ton of seminars, oil and gas, rollovers, ExxonMobil, crushes it, right? We literally had this conversation 2 hours ago. And his process is, as you can imagine, Don, right? We do the event. They come in for the consult. And they do this analysis, and then out the door, and then hopefully we get the money, in now or 6 months or whenever they retire. So I would say you can do it. I think the key thing is not to. So let's say, for example, if you're doing rollover workshops or senior workshops, right? Which I think is probably what you do. So you do what you do, right? You bring them in, you say, look, I'll offer you a free 45-minute consult, stuff like that. You do not do this in front of the room. You bring them in the office, you sit down, you add some value to them. Come up with, because here's what most guys do. Free consult or consults, and then let's go get the business. What I'm saying is do your seminar, make the offer you make them, bring them into the office, give them an hour of your time, and then come up with a project. Whether it's an income plan or Social Security analysis or combination of the two, for just a couple $100. It doesn't have to be thousands of dollars, but you get them to engage you. It changes the dynamic from being like an advisor/salesperson to being an advisor/professional. It changes things. So we don't change your front end. We just, like I explained to my client, because what they would do is bring them in, do this big income analysis piece, take hours to do. They do it for free. And I said, well, how about we bring them in for free, give them a light version of the income analysis. This is my guy in Houston, right? And then if they like that, said, hey, we've got this pre-retirement or this pre-rollover process. We do a full-blown income analysis. We have our CPA partner do a tax review with you and tax plan with you. We'll do touch base calls with you. We'll give you access to e-money. We'll do a dashboard consolidation for you, and it's $1,000 a year. And that's what we're going to do. So we actually create another offering between free and bring me your money. This middle piece that we're going to get retained to do. So if somebody's not ready to roll over, or they're going to wait a year before they retire, or they're not sure, what you don't want to do, and I don't care if it's a senior business or the rollover business or anything, what you don't want to do is meet with people, add value to them, and then and have them go back into the pond where your competitors can fish them out. I want them to hire you at some, and this is going to be my whole concept now. How do we get hired? Can I get hired with AUM? Can I get hired doing a plan or consulting? How can I get hired? That's what I want to focus on. Okay. So again, financial planning. So to answer all the questions here and Chris's question, from that perspective. Okay. Last one, and then like I said, I want to keep this to 30 to 45 minutes, and we're getting close on it. So let me answer Bill's question real quick, which is a pretty basic question, right? What is the best, and I'm going to say the best way to add new clients to your business? So Bill must be new, because if he's been around me for any length of time, he knows the answer already. So I'm just going to say, here it is. It really comes down to referrals from your existing referrals from your existing clients. There's no magic to it. And I will say this to you, Bill, I don't know you personally. If you don't feel you deserve referrals from your clients, then you really need to rethink what you're doing. You need to really think your value. Are you really adding value? Or you're not sure? Because if you're not sure, I know exactly why you don't feel comfortable in talking about referrals and introductions. You're uncomfortable because you're not sure what you're providing your client base. So it's always going to be referral centric first. And then whatever you want to do, right? Again, getting back to marketing legs real quick. What are they? Optimization, right? Making sure we maximize the revenue flow and maximize the service we provide our existing client. What's number two? Referrals and introductions from our current book of business or clients, right? What's leg number three? Our online website, our newsletters, that piece there, right? We're always going to have that third piece. What's our fourth piece? We talk about events, right? Client educational events, bring a guest, adding value that way. Everybody, I don't care if you work in a wirehouse, independent, RIA, totally doesn't matter. Everybody has these four, or everybody needs to have these four, and then whatever you want to do after that. Okay, that's the simplest way to do it. All right. So, first off, I know you're all very busy people. I appreciate you being here. Hopefully we added some value to you. I'm going to have you think about some things over the next week or so. Next Monday, the invite will go out for Wednesday's webinar, and then obviously Wednesday morning we'll put a final invite out there. Please feel free to stop in, send me some questions, and with that, it is 12:40. Let me get you back to work, making some money. I know it's a short week. Thank you all for taking the time out for being here, and I hope to see you again in 7 days.